Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, a World Alternative Media here, and thank you for joining us again for another news show. I know it's only been a day since my last live news show, but you know what? It worked out pretty well. I'm actually liking the ability of being able to talk with everyone and going over all these stories, and it's a lot easier to get up and finish after the fact. So I'm enjoying it. I hope you guys are enjoying it too. It's a little late on the East Coast, but it's still somewhat early enough on the West Coast, so we'll just get to it. We will be getting into stories, and what we do with these stories is basically record reports, and then I'll be reposting individual reports after the fact. So you get to watch me wing a report live, which could go terribly wrong. So enjoy that if that happens. I won't, but at least someone will enjoy it. And with that said, I'm very tired, so I'm having my coffee late at night here. I will get to many of your questions and answer as much as I can, as soon as I can. But first, I'm going to go into a few stories here. So I'm going to get right into it, and then we will go to the chat afterwards. I got it on another computer here. I'm watching it kind of loosely, but I got to pay attention to the story, and then we'll do that, and then we'll go on. So anyway, I have nothing planned. I just have some articles, and I'm going to see if I can kind of ring this off as much as I can without messing up. So anyway, enjoy. So getting started. So as many of you guys know, I spent the beginning of my career at WAM going after child and family services, the child protective agencies, as you call them in the United States. I mostly focused on Manitoba, Canada, but the rest of the country as well. It totally depends on the story itself that I was dealing with at that moment. But I did a lot of that work for a long period of time because one thing people need to understand is that the Child and Family Services system is absolutely disgusting. The way they treat children, it's a government coming in, kidnapping children, drugging many of them, diagnosing them all with different kinds of illnesses, most of them with illnesses really, and I've gotten that from whistleblowers as well, and then pumping them full of drugs. And then on top of that, we also know that the majority of people in care end up at huge risk and increased risk of rape, murder, theft, and being involved in doing those things as well. It is destroying families. If that's there to help children, then I don't know, maybe it's backwards date. It's absolutely disgusting. Child and Family Services is a horrible entity. And the things that I saw over the years, I confronted politicians. I went after the head of the Child and Family Services on multiple occasions, several of them as they kind of went through the loops and everything. And it just got more and more clear to me that, yes, there's bad parents out there. Yes, there's irresponsible parents out there. But this organized crime racket coming and stealing children away from their families and making their lives terrible is just absolutely horrible. I'm going to get into this article right now out of the Winnipeg Sun, which says, "Children are going to die. Advocates report on Tina Fontaine urges changes." And Tina Fontaine was a really young woman, 15 years old, I believe. I've met multiple members of her family, and what happened to her was she was basically ignored and denied help by countless entities, most of them government. The police set her out on her own, and she got herself murdered. Someone murdered her after the police basically shoot her out in the streets. This CFS, which was caring for her, quote unquote, was basically completely irresponsible, something we see a lot. There's so many murders, and there's so many murders of Native American girls and boys in Canada. But anyway, looking into this a bit, I'm going to bring it over to the screen here. All right. So as the article goes into, Saging First Nation, Manitoba. An Indigenous teenager in Manitoba reached out for help multiple times in the weeks before she was found dead in a river, but was told there were no beds available, says a report into her death. The report by children's advocate Daphne Penrose said 15-year-old Tina Fontaine was essentially left homeless and at risk for sexual exploitation. Tina's death in August 2014 renewed calls for a national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and inspired volunteer groups such as the Bear Clan Patrol to protect the vulnerable on the streets. A 24-hour safe space for Winnipeg's youth was dedicated to her memory last May. And the Bear Clan are awesome. They're doing incredible voluntary work, surveying the streets as individuals to stop violence and people attacking each other. They are far more efficient than the police. Anyway, then as this article goes on to say, there were multiple signs the girl was spiraling downward and in danger of dying, but nothing was ever done, said Penrose. What's at stake are the lives of children. What's at stake are the children are going to die if we don't make changes, the advocate said as she released her report Tuesday on the Saging First Nation. They are going to die in this way if we don't get resources for them to access. I don't think that's necessarily the issue at hand, but we'll go into that in a moment. As the article continues, the advocate's investigation, which began last March, looked at records from the medical examiner, police health authorities, child welfare agencies, and others. It also included interviews with Tina's family and other community members. A representative for the teenager's family said Tina can finally rest in peace. The report details how Fontaine's family was affected by a history of residential schools, the 60 Scoop, and child welfare agencies. Again, examples of the government coming in, stealing children, forcing children, indoctrinating children, pulling children from their real families, putting them in other ones, alienating them. And on top of that, it's this whole idea of, it takes a village to raise a family. No, it takes parents to raise a family. And stealing children away and traumatizing them is only going to make their life terrible. Many get out of it, but with that said, it is very difficult for those children. It's an increasingly difficult issue. As it goes into, she carried a burden that was not her own, Penrose said. Tina's mother was 17 years old and was still a child in care when Tina was born on New Year's Day in 1999. Both her parents struggled with addictions. 5 years later, her father asked Tina's great-aunt, Thelma Favell, who I've met, a very nice woman, to take care of her and her siblings on the reserve northwest of Winnipeg. It was a relatively stable time in the young girl's life. That changed when Tina's father was murdered in 2011. Tina's caregiver tried to get help for the young girl from victim services, but because of questions about who was the teen's legal guardian, she never received counseling. In June 2014, Tina left to try to reconnect with her mother in Winnipeg. Where did I leave off here? When Favell didn't hear from the girl, she called Child and Family Services for help. The report outlines how Tina's high-risk behavior rapidly escalated in her final 2 months. She disappeared, was homeless, developed addictions, and was sexually exploited. But she also reached out several times for help. On one occasion, Tina called Child and Family Services, but no one arranged to pick her up. Workers told the teen to ride her bicycle to a shelter. There was no evidence she arrived. For Tina, more than once in a matter of weeks, she was told there were no beds available for her, which essentially left her homeless and responsible to find her own place to stay, the report says. With nowhere to go, youth may be forced into sexual exploitation to have their basic needs met, it says. Sadly enough for children, when they are on the street, nothing comes free, Penrose said. The report says Tina disclosed her child welfare agency to her child welfare agency that she was hanging out with a 62-year-old meth-using man. Court heard during the second-degree murder trial of Raymond Cormier, who was acquitted last year in Tina's death, how the young girl was associating with the older man, and he admitted he was sexually attracted to her. Social workers believed Tina had been sexually assaulted, but the agency still dropped the teenager off with a contracted care worker at a downtown hotel. Tina walked away from the hotel shortly after. Just days later, her 72-pound body, wrapped in a duvet cover and weighed down by rocks, was pulled from the Red River. Penrose's report makes 5 recommendations. They include a plan to address children's mental health and a new response for at-risk and sexually exploited youth. So wait a second, like, this is a main issue I have with, well, there's many issues I have with this, but my main issue is that they're asking the government, this organized crime racket that steals children and traumatizes them, to give them mental health, help. First of all, don't put children in hotels. They were like packing hotels filled with children because they're stealing so many children from their family. So many, it's insane. I believe 80,000 people when I last checked in 2014 or 2015. But they were putting them in hotels, packing them with hotels. They were not paying any attention to them. They were going off on their own, and they're traumatizing these children. And then they're like, we need to get them mental health help. So they're going to extort people more to fund this program instead of not creating the problem in the first place. It's so infuriating when we're talking about children, innocent human beings that are ripped away from their families, often moments after their families give birth to them, often from parents who don't have any history with drugs or might have smoked a joint once or twice or whatever. I believe there's a little girl named Baby Alexandria that I went into years ago, which is so disgusting, and she was put in a home with people who are already accused of rape and everything like that in the first place, and then she was murdered in a bathtub, just beaten to death, a baby, so sick. And these are the foster parents that they're putting. I'm not saying all foster parents are like that, and foster parents are in a situation where they're trying to help anyway, many of them. But it's just the fact that they steal these children away, and they stole them from parents that smoked a joint in a garage while she was in bed once. I mean, this is so absolutely disgusting. I don't know how anyone can see these stories and not be sick to their stomachs. How many children have been taken away, thrown in these situations, traumatized, molested, murdered, and then pushed out of the system the second they grow old and screw you. It's so insane, and so many of these people become statistics, and they end up statistics of not just being murdered, but being murderers, because children are warped by this horrible complex of government forcing them into these hotels, and these people that don't care about them, never getting hugged, all that kind of stuff. It is disgusting. So when will we do something about this? I know I went after Greg Selinger, the Premier of Manitoba, the NDP Socialist Premier of Manitoba, before he was raising funding. He was doing horrible things. Kerry Irvin Ross, all these people. And then what happens? Well, the Conservatives get in, and Pallister comes in as the new Premier of Manitoba, and he raises spending into CFS. What happened? Why are people just staying apathetic to this? It's so disgusting. So people, not just in Manitoba, but throughout Canada, throughout the United States and elsewhere, need to stand up to this. You know how many parents have gag orders from not being able to talk about what they've witnessed and the horrible things that have happened to them and their children, including molestation, rape, all that kind of stuff, and being forced into the hands of the person who raped them? And these children have come forward, and then they just say that the other parent must have told them to say that and wave it off as these children are repeatedly molested. In cases, I have friends whose son, a friend whose son killed himself after all of this, and the government, whatever, sorry. It's just the person actually that took the picture I showed earlier of me confronting Greg Selinger with a woman named Wendy Bocott, which I did a lot of activist work with years ago. But it's just so horrible when you hear these stories. The amount of stories, the amount of parents I spoke to, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of parents, it gets to the point where it makes you so sick you want to throw up. It's just, it weighs down on you after a while, and people need to do something about this. People need to stand up against this. These are children. This is a complex of extortion, theft, kidnapping, and murder. This is a complex of organized crime, stealing children. If the Italian or Asian or Mexican mob stole your child, would you just we'll go and debate it in a courtroom, and they run the courtroom, so I guess that's not going to go anywhere good. I mean, would you, and maybe the police or the henchmen or the guys that go out and do the work, the dirty work for the organized crime racket, maybe they'll solve it. No. The government isn't going to solve the problems of government. Cancer doesn't cure cancer, folks. And folks, I don't know how many times I've had to say this. I've been saying this for so many years. I've been following this case for so many years. And yes, it does disproportionately go after Native American, Indigenous kids. There's no doubt about it. Yes, there's an increased statistical odds of alcoholism and all that kind of stuff in those communities. That somehow justifies the government coming in and stealing children. Government, the biggest murderer of all time. Government, the biggest thief and kidnapper of all time. The biggest polluter. All these things. Why do we stay remaining apathetic and complacent to this system? It's so horrible. And pumping drugs into these children, the amount of children being dragged out of rivers dead. I don't know. I don't know how much longer it's going to take until people wake up. But we keep pushing forward and we keep trying to get the word out on this and press people. Press politicians, confront politicians, non-violently, but confront them and tell them what they are, and tell them what they need to stop doing, and tell them what you want as an individual. Taking back your child, taking back the children that have been stolen from you, taking back your grandchildren, getting some kind of justice for your children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews or brothers or sisters being murdered and drugged to death and killed. But that's up to you as individuals. I appreciate you joining us again for another update on this horrible complex. We will do whatever we can to continuously get the message out, but keep up the saying, CFS are fired. It's something I spoke of so many times for so many years, and we need to continue that. There's a CFS are fired group, I believe, on Facebook still, working hard to give voices to these children stolen by the government. Anyway, till next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. All right, guys, that was one report. I'm gonna get to other reports first. I'm gonna check who has been messaging us here. Let's see. Elias, hey, how's it going? I totally appreciate your abhorrence to this travesty. Thank you. Yeah, and I've met Elias at Red Pill Expo. He's got some good videos, so definitely worth checking out. What are we gonna do about it? It's just it makes me sick actually just even reporting on it. Like, I just winged that report. I had no plans, and it just made me angry. But anyway, let's see. I'm just looking at some of these comments here. Send your comments if you want. Neil says, "Oh, hi, Josh." Hi, Neil. Keisha Rhineston says, "And it wouldn't surprise me if Winterpig is fairly close to Chicago." Well, it's considered the Chicago of Canada, technically. It's had that name for a long time, but now statistically the crime rate is very parallel. The Umpire Post, thumbs up, viewers. Thank you. Yeah, make sure to press like on like below the video, because we need that in order for the video to reach other people. So I appreciate that, everyone. I'm going to go on to the next report. I'm not sure what I'm going to report on yet. Let me see. I'm going to pull up something. Got a lot of Canadian reports today. And there's some issues that are so in-depth that I don't want to go into on a live show, because it will just... I have to go and do so much research on this, including this college admission scandal that's been happening as of today. That Felicity Huffman or something? Felicity Huffman or something. I think that's her name. The actress, Aunt something from Full House. I don't know. I don't watch those shows. But yeah, she's involved in it. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to get into the next report. Kingsley says, "Love this new format." I do too. It's very helpful to me, because I don't know how much more I can take of editing like polished documentary style videos and no one watching it because of the shadow banning. All I can do is just post a ton of videos every day, which is what I'm doing. For those that are just tuning in, I'm basically trying to do a bunch of live videos. So if I open up and close a report, don't go away. We get back to your questions. Super chats help a lot, by the way. I really appreciate that. But we are just going through these reports. We'll be posting them later, and then I'm also doing Q&A here today. But this is my Bitcoin address for those that are interested. I have to offer it up for people to check out for tips and donations, because it really helps us stay alive. Because like I said, we've been fighting crazy shadow banning lately. And it's been really hard, really hard to keep up with. It's enough to drive a person crazy. But anyway, let's get to our next report. I'm just gonna get it up and ready here. Yeah, I can try this one. It's gonna be winging it. I haven't read this story yet, so this could go either way. But let's get to it. All right. I'm a little jittery from all the coffee. I've been drinking coffee all day. 3, 2. All right, so in the news today, something that caught my eye from CTV News, as this article says, Ontario to ban cell phones from classrooms during instructional time. Alrighty then, let's see what this article says. As it says, cell phones will be banned in Ontario classrooms during instructional time starting in September. Education Minister Lisa Thompson said in a statement Tuesday that a formal announcement is coming soon, and I quote, Ontario's students need to be able to focus on their learning and not their cell phones, she wrote. By banning cell phone use that distracts from learning, we are helping students to focus on acquiring the foundational skills they need, like reading, writing, and math. Okay, then we're gonna break this down more comprehensively in the next few minutes. But I'm gonna continue here. Some schools already have similar policies, but the province will issue a directive to all public schools for the 2019-20 school year. Government sources told the Canadian Press. How to enforce the ban would be up to individual boards and schools. Exceptions would be made for when teachers want to use cell phones as part of their lesson for medical reasons and students with special needs. The Tory government conducted education consultation last year, and while input on the sex education curriculum dominated headlines, feedback was also gathered on a potential classroom cell phone ban. About 97% of respondents favored some sort of restriction on phones in class. And I quote, it was the closest thing we got in our consultation to unanimity, one source said. The Progressive Conservatives had proposed such a ban in their platform during last year's election campaign. Oh, I hate that term, Progressive Conservatives. Progressive. Like, make up your mind, you collectivists. Anyway, as it goes on to say, the Ontario Public School Boards Association did not provide comment Tuesday, but in its submission to the government consultations, it had urged the province to continue allowing school boards to make their own decisions. And I quote, students need to be discerning digital citizens, and opportunities should be provided within the curriculum to allow students to safely explore various uses and risks of technology in an intentionally guided and supportive environment, the association wrote. Schools and teachers have well-established limits and boundaries with regards to cell phone use in schools and the classroom, similar to other classroom expectations, which are designed to create positive learning environments. They note that many school boards have policies that allow students to bring their own devices into the classroom for educational purposes. In the classroom, students will use devices responsibly and only the permission and direction of the teacher or other staff member, the Peel District School Board policy says. The Ontario ban would not preclude teachers from using devices as part of instructions. Man, this article is badly written. They're going over things that have become obvious already. The Toronto District School Board used to have cell phone ban, but reversed it after 4 years to let teachers dictate what works best for their classrooms. The board has previously said that enforcing an outright ban was next to impossible, and said that to curb technology use would be to place limits on education opportunities as well. Well, yeah, there's a lot to be said about that, but for different reasons from my perspective. Anyway, a 2015 London School of Economics, oh great, London School of Economics, so they're an authority on things. A 2015 London School of Economics and Political Science paper found that students' performance in high-stakes exams significantly increases with a ban on mobile phones. The improvements were largely seen among the students who were normally the lowest achieving. This suggests that restricting mobile phone use can be a low-cost policy to reduce educational inequalities, the study found. Well, let's kind of get into that a bit. It stops or it reduces educational inequality. So it's basically the same thing that public schools, these indoctrination camps, basically end up throwing at children, saying that they're autistic, they're, all these different things. They need Ritalin, they need to be drugged and brainwashed further. Look, one of the things about the internet is that you have access to vast information. Sure, children could become degenerates by seeing a part of all the degenerate crap on the internet, and there's more of that than anything. And we see that, especially nowadays, which the media is actually promoting with the pop culture. We see that all the time. Children are not like they used to be, and it's alarming and it's scary. But with that said, let's just talk a little bit about the fact that we have this mechanism that gives us access to vast information that allows us to make our own decisions in life, while the school systems force everyone into one category. Like that old quote says, you can you can have an exam and you can tell a monkey, a giraffe, a snake, and a goat to climb a tree. One's going to get there faster than the others, but it doesn't mean the others are stupid. They just can't do that particular task as well, or they're not interested in it. And there's a huge problem with education from that perspective. But another thing is that this organized crime racket called government has an authority on education. Of course they're going to mold children's brains to be dependent and stupid, because the government depends on the dependence of the populace. So I find this to be more of a telltale sign of something completely different than just trying to stop children from being distracted. I learned more in my first year out of school, first half a year out of school, than I did in all of my years combined in school. And why was that? Internet and books. Books I wanted to read, books I was interested in. Books that taught me something that wasn't just indoctrinating me into a system of dependence, which I can basically just grow old in, become a wage slave, and then die after I get half my pension stolen from me and all my money, or 70% of my money stolen from me via taxation, to fund these ridiculous indoctrination camps. Folks, I don't know how many times I have to go into this, but these educational systems set kids up to fail. And now, everything from gum, stopping people from chewing gum in schools and stuff. So children are chewing gum. And even though statistically that allows children to think more and be distracted less, instead of fidgeting and doodling and all that kind of stuff, they chew gum. They try to ban that. It didn't work out so well. So now some schools have gum chewing sessions. It's all stupid. It's like a camp, really, and not the good kind of camp. But then at the same time, you have these cell phone rules, and children aren't allowed to explore information. Maybe the teacher says something, they look into it and maybe do a bit of research, because most of these teachers are very, very uneducated and stupid. Do you know how many teachers I've dealt with from public schools that are complete morons? I mean, really, really incredibly stupid, like worse than AOC stupid. And that's saying a lot. This is a huge problem. This is why I advocate for people getting out of the public school system. You are torturing children. Look, it's good to have recess. That's one good time of day, a little glimpse at freedom, so you don't go completely insane like so many kids have in the past. And it kills motivation and pushes children to become drug addicts too, and fail in life and never strive for anything better. Because, you have to be like a doctor or a lawyer, or study this trigonometry course, which none of you have any interest in unless you're building GPSs or working with certain forms of macroeconomics and stuff. It's ridiculous. And they don't teach you how to be financially stable for the most part. There's some schools that do, but it's certainly not a main part of the curriculum. And folks, math, good. Teach kids math. Science, good. Teach kids science, but allow them to be skeptical and research this stuff and debate each other. But these public school indoctrination camps that the government forces on children are hurting children. It's destroying children's futures. It's creating decade after decade, generation after generation, slowly, more incrementally further, generations of stupid people that are dependent and sad and depressed and not happy with their life and don't ever strive for anything and think they got to follow some certain system that they've been indoctrinated into, including the government, and believing that they need to depend on government like mommy and daddy, like their teacher, for success, for privilege. Individuals make their privilege. They earn things. They do what they can to be strong and break free from any of the chains that so many so revere. Freedom comes from the individual and out of responsibility. And sure, they teach responsibility in school, but it's a watered down quasi-neo responsibility that children, again, are indoctrinated into, led into, brainwashed into, that doesn't include anything outside of the government. I mean, individual responsibility, but we must obey, bow down. We need to depend on the government for this, Social Security, banks robbing us, fiat being printed out of thin air, which they don't teach you about, all that kind of nonsense. So folks, again, let's get children out of these camps and teach them to be responsible and learn what they wish to learn and see the consequences of being lazy and not doing things themselves early before they're told their whole life that they're a winner with the self-esteem movement, and then they hit 25 years old, as George Carlin said, and suddenly someone calls them a loser. You're a loser. And it's their boss, and they get fired, and it's the first time they realize, wow, I'm a loser? I never thought of that before. Well, I guess I'm just going to be a loser for the rest of my life because I got to get a job and maintain my own finances and stay alive. So I guess I'll just stay being a loser. And I know, it's just, I don't want to rant on too much more, but it's just a huge, huge problem that we need to break free from, because children are the future. And if we make our future stupid, we reap the consequences. So anyway, be educated, read, conflict your own viewpoints, go against confirmation bias, do whatever you can to break free. And don't be dependent, be responsible, self-sustainable, free human beings, decentralize yourself, rule yourself, and stop being a slave. Anyway, until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. All right. Let's see, what do we got here? I'm going to look at the comments again. Oh, very hungry. I'm always hungry when I do these things. I think something about that gives me energy. Let's see. No, I'm not going anywhere, Neil. I do these reports separately, and then I break them down after. Real Kevin Thompson says Winnipeg. What about it? Yeah, I'm actually going to be in Winnipeg shortly. I'm not super excited about it, but I'll be there. Neil says eat a sandwich. A sandwich? Yeah, well, my woman's not around right now, so I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, ladies. Kidding. Bad joke delivery. That's what kills it. That's the bad part of it. Anyway, Kingsley Edwards says, can't you just add an outro after editing? Lol. I could do that, but I don't know. I feel like it's good to just close it off this way. It's weird to cut to an outro. Like if I do a video and then I cut to a different video of me saying, hey, blah, blah, blah. It's weird. It's weird. It's weirder than doing this live and doing outros live on YouTube. I don't know. It doesn't seem to bug people too much. If you know about it, it's good. And I seem to respond right after fast enough that people don't get confused and run away. So I don't think that's a big issue. JRM O'Brien says, why only 55 people on here? Good question. I would love to know the reason for that out of 114,000 people. Why I have currently 57 people watching. One of them being myself. So that's another example of the heavy over-the-top shadow banning I'm receiving. I used to get like 200 people watching at a time when I had a quarter of the subscribers. What does that tell you? People aren't getting notified. By the way, click the notification button to get notified and press like on the video. It helps gain momentum in the algorithm. But anyway, Casey, hi Josh, caught the last 5 minutes as usual. It's not the last 5 minutes yet that I know of. It might be, I don't know. But I'm not going anywhere yet. I think I still have stories. I'm just not sure what to report on because I literally just put a bunch of links and articles in my Google here, and I'm just like winging it here. So I have no idea what to do. There's one report, like I mentioned earlier, on that the charges of the dozens of parents and coaches in a massive college admission scandal. And I honestly have absolutely no idea if I should be doing this. Like, it's about Felicity Huffman and people like that. Look how long this article is. It's really extensive. I need to go into this in a more in-depth way and look at multiple different articles outside of NPR, which is, I think, necessary because I don't want to be taking a bunch of information from NPR. But anyway, Mike Everard says, I watch you from New Zealand. Well, thank you very much. Greetings from the United States, USSA, as some people call it. I'm going to Kanukistan soon, and good times. But really, always good to see people from all these different countries in the world. It's great to reach so many people. Breathing Sunshine says, might be content related as well as David Icke is a total idiot. Well, that's your opinion. And look, there's a lot of stuff I disagree with David Icke on, but I got heavily shadow banned for interviewing David Icke regarding QAnon and stuff like that, and calling out the trust the plan, be apathetic movement that we see with every single presidency. It's really bad, and it just has different forms every time. I'm not a Q person, sorry guys, and I'm just saying my truth. And people, like, do you know, I had over 1,000 comments calling for me to be killed after doing that video, all while YouTube was shadow banning me calling out QAnon. Why are people not noticing that YouTube is not allowing you to say negative stuff about QAnon, but it's allowing people to say, pro QAnon stuff, and they get hundreds of thousands of views? Does anyone notice that? Because YouTube only allows things they want. They'll allow certain things to get past the algorithm. I don't agree with everything David Icke says, but I did get heavily shadow banned for interviewing him, and it really, really struck hard because of the new conspiracy algorithm on YouTube. It's a brutal new algorithm change that is destroying people on YouTube. Even talking about money, they think you're talking about the J word if you're talking about money, which I'm not. I'm talking about money, basic economics, but it's getting really, really bad. Keisha Rhinestone says, I get confused by the outro for a quick second, but you start speaking again quick enough that it keeps me from closing the video thinking it's ending before you start speaking again. Yeah, look, I know. I just don't know how to do it where it's not awkward, because I have to close it off, and I don't want to just end it randomly. It's weird. I tried that with a few of the ones on the last show. So I don't want to really do that. So I feel like the least awkward thing that I could do is, end it in the report and then continue talking with everyone as soon as possible. Dark Horse says, isn't Canada worse off than US because no printing press? Because no printing press? I'm kind of confused by your question. Canada is in a race to the bottom with the United States. There's definitely a printing press. There's definitely a Bank of Canada that is printing fiat currency by legal tender laws and forcing people into debt servitude by forcing people or extorting people to pay off the interest on the debt, which makes up for a massive amount of the taxation in Canada. But there's a race to the bottom. Yeah, Dark Horse says, does Canada print money? Absolutely. Every country in the world prints money. Every single one has legal tender laws that I know of. I can't think of any of them. People say Iran, but Iran just has a public bank. It's a government central bank. It's still a central bank, and it's still printing fiat currency, and it's terrible. But yeah, every country in the world has a printing press. But yeah, the U.S. World Reserve currency is probably the worst. It's just that it has a bit more faith to an extent because of other countries using it, but countless countries are swapping out of it, and its faith is being lost, and that's all it's based on. Canada and the US are in a race to the bottom. People keep saying Canada's dollar is crashing faster than the US. It doesn't matter. One isn't stronger than the other. They're all devaluing, just some are devaluing at a greater rate than the others. Like I said, race to the bottom. Breathing Sunshine gave 5 Canadian dollars in the super chat. Thank you very much. As I say, would be good to look at the potential downside of things like cryptocurrency as well as the upside. Just be more balanced. Just a suggestion. I agree. Well, that's why in December 2017, I was telling people to sell before the bubble burst, because it was obviously a bubble. There are huge problems with the bubbles and people overvaluing things that have no fundamental value. And that is the same, like, look at the dot-com bubble in 2001. What was that? It was 95% terrible dot-com companies followed by 5% good dot-com companies. But is the trend of .com. So people flooded the market, overvaluing the market, and what did that cause? Well, the bad companies caused all of them to go down, and it took like almost 10 years for Amazon to recuperate and get back up to where it once was. And it took a lot of innovation to do that too, which is one of the good things about Amazon outside of the government contracts, which I'm very much against. But with that said, I think that's important. And the same goes for cryptocurrency. You have all these altcoins, and 95% of them are horrible. They're absolutely terrible. And of course, that's going to crash a market with vast speculation and people getting greedy. And the greed is over the top crazy. So that's a huge issue that we all need to concentrate on. And all these people that are giving advice on YouTube that don't trade, they don't understand the market at all, but they're giving people advice. Notice how 99% of them are gone now that it's a bear market. But yeah, there's other sides, traceability, which is why people like Kingsley Edward, who's commenting on here, is talking and promoting privacy coins so much, which I'm totally for. I think there's a place for both, but I think privacy coins are probably the future and getting outside of the governmental system. But yeah, I think that's a very important point. Now, I do want to mention one thing that I have to mention every time with cryptocurrency because people get confused. Bitcoin is not fiat. Bitcoin is not fiat. Fiat is by decree. Fiat is by law. Fiat is by legal tender. Legal tender laws. That's what happens when something becomes fiat. And there's no cap on supply or circulation with something like the US dollar. It's all based on faith. It doesn't have fundamental value. It doesn't have infrastructure that's in any way innovative. It doesn't compete because it is enforced through the central banking system and through the debt usury, the forced usury, and the taxes. That is a different system than Bitcoin, which is scarce like gold, has demand, and it's innovative. It's crazy innovative, like scarcity, application use, and demand. That is a hallmark of subjective value. But of course, there's downsides, and not everything is good all the time. There's going to be fluctuations in markets. I was just talking to a mechanic who's fixing my truck about this today, actually, who didn't know anything about Bitcoin. He's like most people. He's like, do you buy one Bitcoin? Do you have to buy one? No, you could buy $5. You could buy $2 of Bitcoin if you want. Or you could buy a full Bitcoin, which is about $4,000, which, by the way, I believe after it breaks 4,200 properly and on its way up, it'll probably hit 5 and it'll probably hit 8 and then 10 after that. But with that said, I'm not sure we're at our bottom yet, though there's a lot of people saying, I think we are at this point. But I don't know yet. There's a potential downturn that The Moon on YouTube has gone into recently. Check out the channel The Moon. Don't click out of my video, but open a new tab and look up The Moon, or just write it down for later. Or it's easy to remember, The Moon. It's a crypto channel, and he's got lots of subscribers. I met him at Acapulco after having seen a few of his videos previously, and he did a video recently just breaking down the potential downward momentum that we could see in the near future, which is enough to make anyone really depressed in this market. It's been a rough time, one of the longest bear markets ever, but I don't know. I think that we are in for good times ahead. It's an infant market. No one can debate that. Seriously, it's an infant market. It's not over. Peter Schiff, it's not over. Anyway. Let's see. We got Sterling Nichols says, do you follow Corey Good or David Wilcock? I enjoy WAM. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Sterling. I know of David Wilcox. Corey Good, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look into that. Real Kevin Thompson says Bitcoin is a scam. Sorry, Kevin, not an argument. How is it a scam? It's a decentralized free market competing currency on the blockchain that anyone can opt out of and use any other cryptocurrency they want. It's not a scam. It really isn't. If the government built Bitcoin, it makes no sense. It doesn't benefit them, and it allowed people to take that technology and build thousands of other cryptocurrencies to combat Bitcoin with better quality and more efficiency. I mean, government is inefficient at absolutely everything, and free market is always far more efficient. So there's that. But no, it's not a scam. It doesn't make sense. But Briggs says USD equals scam. Now that's a scam, and it's forced at gunpoint. I would be all for the US dollar existing if it wasn't through legal tender laws and we weren't forced to pay for it as a collective with guns to our head while usury is forced on us. Usury isn't necessarily a bad thing. We've done videos on this. If it's voluntary, because some people want interest on certain loans and all that kind of stuff, fine. I don't suggest getting into debt, but whatever. And that's all voluntary. But the enforced usury is absolutely ridiculous. It's sorry, I just saw a comment on here. Kevin Thompson, who backs Bitcoin? Who backs Bitcoin? Individuals on the market and their demand for it versus the circulation or supply, the market capitalization versus the supply. Who backs it is individuals, demand, subjective value. Gold doesn't have physical value. Physicality is a form of application used for gold, which plays into subjectivity of value, which is scarcity, application use, and demand. But that's subjective too, because people like certain things for different reasons. There's some people like peanuts, and other people are, allergic to peanuts. There's demand there, but not demand for everyone. It's subjective, and the same goes for gold and silver. Monkeys don't use gold and silver. There isn't a magic number floating over it. It doesn't just, magically have, value. The value is decided upon through the perception of the individual on the market versus other people's reaction to that and the ability to exchange. So, Briggs says proof of work backs Bitcoin. Yeah. So there's a lot that backs Bitcoin. It's the same that backs gold and silver. It has industry use. It is scarce. There's only 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be created. And if anything ever rose above that in a fork or something, or there's promissory notes, people would leave Bitcoin because it would lose value. So why would they use it? They would just go to something else. But that would be a complete co-opting. Yeah, there's quantum computing and 51% attacks, which are highly, highly unlikely. And the free market is developing technology against quantum computing faster than quantum computing is being built. And the government, again, is inefficient at everything. So that's very important. Gold and silver, only one Josh was created. There can only be one. John Snyson's on. He says, hey, hello. The issue at hand here isn't whether Bitcoin's physical or not or who backs it. It's a fact that people like it. People use it. It's revolutionary. It's new. It's something that's innovative. That's something that can be used on the market that people love to use. Even people like Jack Dorsey, who I don't like, and I recently did a report on this that I posted today, is buying ridiculous amounts of Bitcoin. And it's people, the elites are buying Bitcoin just like they're buying gold and silver. Because it looks good for them long term. They know what's coming. They know the collapse that's coming. And they want to pack their pockets as much as possible and ensure their wealth. Which is something that we're also seeing, from the perspective of a crash. Bitcoin was created on the back of the financial crisis. And it was meant to combat a financial crisis. And we'll find out for the first time. But anyway, Peter Kingston says, everything good, mate? Everything is good. I'm very tired and hungry. I'm going to be taking off right away. I thought I'd be doing more videos and more reports on this, but I also have another report to post from yesterday, and I got 2 done today, and they were more passionate than I expected, and now I'm kind of a bit more worn out, so I don't think I do a good job. I'm kind of running out of breath talking to y'all. Happy to do it, but yes, Neil keeps telling me to eat a sandwich. Well, if you don't get your woman to send me a sandwich, I can't eat a sandwich, can I? I'm sorry. I can't help it. The jokes they write themselves. Very bad. Bad. I'm sorry. Don't flag me for hate speech. No, seriously, don't. But anyway, Joey Crypto says, I think it's actually helping keep the fiat system alive. There's been that debate made, but I don't actually think that that's the case. People are using fiat right now because it has actually been good as an asset versus many stocks in 2018. So as Lior Gans went into recently, and again, I hate the US dollar, it's terrible. But if people kept their money in fiat rather than invest in the stock market in 2018, they actually would have had the most appreciating asset compared to the market. Other than obviously, if you were to trade the dips and the bear traps and all that kind of stuff with Bitcoin, or if you were to, get involved in a few companies that actually did well in 2018, which were few and far between, or if you were to have gold and silver. But even to that extent, gold and silver didn't do that great last year. It's doing better. It's seeing rise, but it's not really doing that well. So I think I think that the U.S. dollar is not being held up. It helps export inflation. I feel like it's helping people pile out of the US dollar, and that's more important. I think that is actually helping us far more than the Federal Reserve, which, by the way, is in desperation mode and trying to uh, stop themselves from going into negative rates, which is going to be happening inevitably. And at the same time, I'm sorry, I'm just getting distracted by comments. Lots going on in my head. At the same time, we have all these problems with, I'm completely blanking out on what I was just saying. Oh yeah, it's makes more sense to look at it from the perspective of people flooding out of the US dollar because they're in desperation mode. The Federal Reserve is failing terribly right now. They're looking towards a cashless society, not to be confused with cryptocurrencies that are decentralized, but we're talking about government enforced fiat legal tender, crypto, or even not even cryptographic, but like in digital currencies. And like we're seeing being pushed in China, technocratic super state, and all that kind of stuff. Facial recognition, social credit, all that kind of stuff. So that is a huge problem, and China and India will overtake the United States in the next few years, and that will cause the US dollar to tumble by itself, not to mention the banks all being bankrupt and all that kind of stuff, and the faith being lost and the swapping and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to see a massive tumble. I don't think they'll prevail. I don't think the IMF is going to prevail, but they'll sure as down as hell try, and they're going to make some grounds there at the beginning, and I think China is probably going to rise up for a small amount of time before it eventually comes crashing down as well. But I think that something like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is a shield, but don't quote me on it as advice. It's my opinion, of course, because I think there's diversification at play that's important as well with gold and silver and all these other assets that we can pile our money into in order to protect our purchasing power, because Bitcoin might crash heavily as the dollar crashes, but then rise up as a massive, massive rally leading out from it. So it's hard to say. I just know that it's a future. It's a future of transactions. It's a future of privacy. If you look at the privacy coins and all the strides that are being made to make cryptocurrencies more privacy oriented, which is very important because we can't allow ourselves to be completely restricted, controlled, and watched by the state, which we're seeing in China. And it's gone too far to even reverse in China. It's so crazy. And if China takes over, my God, people, what the hell are we going to do other than fight for our lives? And if we're waiting for the first shot to be fired, folks, we are not going to do well. Blunt News says more so silver. Well, I'm a big fan of silver. Silver is highly undervalued, as I see it anyway. And we are looking at the silver gold ratio, and we're seeing something that we don't see very often in its peak against gold. So I think that it's usually followed by a financial crisis, and it's usually followed by a bull run. And the value increases dramatically, and we can look at 2008 to 2012 for an example, or we can look at 2001. We can look at the 70s as a great example. But I mean, looking at 2002 to 2012, look at the increase in gold. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's such a huge increase that it's astonishing. And a lot of people expected it to go forever. Again, speculation. Markets never go up forever, or else you better duck for cover. It's not going to end well. Anyway, I'm going to be taking off right away. I really appreciate everyone tuning in. I'm just looking around here at the comments. And again, Breathing Sunshine, thank you very much for the super chat you sent a bit earlier. I really appreciate that. They really help us keep going here at WAM. It's getting more and more difficult by the day as they make things more and more restrictive on YouTube. Here's our Bitcoin address for anyone who may be interested. I don't know. It's up to you. Just give us a birthday present or whatever you want. Our 6th birthday was on the 1st of March. It's been a long time. I already feel like a veteran, folks. I feel like I've been doing this forever. But I love every moment of it. And of course, I also do want to let everyone know about our Subscribestar. Subscribestar, we are going to be doing exclusive videos on Subscribestar for our subscribers at the tier. We still have to set our tiers, but at our tier of $4.99 or over, you will be getting, and that's a monthly pledge. I think you can do one-time payments as well. But anyway, you will get video content. People under $5 will be able to directly contact me, and we will be able to exchange messages and stuff like that. But anyway, our Subscribestar page We only got a few people. Let me refresh this and see if anything's happened since I last refreshed it. No, doesn't look like it. Nope. One of those subscribers is my dad. But anyway, and I appreciate that. It's just like, oh man, it's not going how I expected with subscribers. So I guess I gotta pump it out more. But we will be doing subscriber only content, and I'm gonna be doing a video with Dan Dix soon on Subscribestar only for Subscribestar viewers. It is linked below in the description, I believe. And yeah, Briggs says, how is John? And the economic truth is John. John is here, as he says. John is well, and we are going to be doing videos right away. He's been really caught up doing a lot of work with his Winnipeg Crypto Conference, which is going to be happening in October, and working at his job and all that kind of stuff. So we will be getting lots of content out with John soon as well. I'm trying to produce a crazy amount of content right now just to keep up with YouTube's algorithm. It's getting ridiculous. I guess I could take it off the Subscribestar page. Just a little heads up for everyone to see. It does help, and it does help us get out content that's not safe for YouTube, as I call it. Okay, not safe for YouTube, NSFYT. Not, don't worry about it. It's just not safe for YouTube. Anyway, Blunt News says, any Trudeau news? I am going to look at that. There's always news. I just recently reported on SNC Lavalin. His approval rating's way down. But the thing is, like, everything he does is stupid. So after a while, it gets tiring just repeating myself over and over again, saying the guy can't tie his shoes and he has to get lullabies sang to him by his wife as he goes to bed each night in order to be able to sleep without nightmares of the monster under the bed, which is all the people that are dead because of him, all the people that he's extorted, and all the people he's scammed. Anyway, I don't want to get too out of control there. But, yes, I will be getting into that a bit more shortly. There's always stuff on Trudeau to talk about. And again, both the stories we reported on our show today on the live broadcast were Canadian. I got one video out of Nashville, which I will be posting later today. Or tomorrow. No, tomorrow. I've posted way too much today. Algorithm on YouTube's like, no, we are not giving you views anymore. You are posting too much. So we'll get it up tomorrow. And there's lots to come in the near future. And I'm also introducing a new reporter here at WAM that I'm very excited about doing very soon. And we also have some news with Chris Rice Crypto, who's been doing reports for us off and on here at WAM, who, by the way, you should check out his channel, Chris Rice Crypto. He is going to be doing another interview with John McAfee, which is, no matter what, going to be entertaining. So that's going to be happening in the next few days, I think, or the next week. Brian Granger says, love from Winnipeg. Well, love from Las Vegas. I'll be in Winnipeg soon, begrudgingly freezing my butt off. But it's actually not bad weather lately in Winnipeg. It's not the worst. It's been a better winter over there. And it's been a very unusually cold winter in Las Vegas this year. I picked my time well. I brought the weather over here. But yeah, Brian Granger says it's 0. And for our American folks, that in Fahrenheit, that is, 32 or something? It's freezing. It's a freezing point. The Economic Truth says, will John be off the coke? And by John, he means John McAfee, not himself. I'm not going to make any promises on that. John McAfee is his own guy, and a very, very interesting guy at that. And I'm just going to leave him to do whatever he wants. Last time, I'm pretty sure, I'm not going to make any assumptions, but it was interesting. If any of you saw it, it was interesting. Joey Crypto says, Ouija told John a few months ago that the elections would focus on UBI, and it's already starting. Yeah, but I think a lot of people would expect that. I don't know. I feel like that's been a movement that's been growing for years. We've debunked it many times, the absurdity of it. But anyway, I don't know if he's a Bix Weir, Cliff High type. John McAfee, I'm not going to go there. But anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. Briggs says, so glad WAM is live streaming. Yeah, we used to do it a lot more. And we even had the WAM show years ago, which was pre-recorded, tons of interviews and everything. It's just too much to handle. But I like this format, and I'm enjoying this format. I have to thank people like Kingsley Edwards for pushing me towards that, and seeing Tim Pool do it successfully. Then again, Tim Pool is on a different level than I am when it comes to he likes the government and that kind of stuff. So I'm not exactly supportive of him. But we got to do it from the voluntarist perspective and bring voluntarism to the world in a live news show, don't you think? I mean, anyway, and it also allows me to be more efficient and get more news out. So anyway, we're coming up on the hour mark. I am exhausted. I've been doing this all day. 3 videos up. This is a 4th technically. And I got more editing to do, and I've been dealing with a mechanic all day and other stuff. So anyway, Brian Granger says, gotta build your community. I completely agree. And it's been really difficult. It's more hard than ever on YouTube. We are transferring. Make sure to send me subject line yes to the email worldalternativemedia@gmail.com, which will automatically join you to our newsletter. If you do that, we can reach you even when YouTube inevitably shuts our channel down. It is going to happen. That will happen. So anyway, the Economic Truth says, John says, Josh will be in Winnipeg soon. Live stream? Absolutely. I'm going to be doing this a lot. I almost feel like doing this every day, but it would be a bit too much. It would be a bit of overkill. But these live streams are saving my life right now. With the super chats and stuff, they make it possible to continue because I'm not making any money really off of YouTube anymore. And I don't do this for money. I did it for years without making a cent. But I need, obviously, money to live and continue doing this 24/7. It's really bad, and I don't know. But all's cool. Joey Crypto says, was nice meeting you at Bitcoin Miami. Absolutely. Same to yourself. I meet so many amazing people everywhere I go. Always appreciated. Keisha Rhinestone's comment was hidden by YouTube. I'm going to click it here. John McAfee said he'd eat his dick on national television if Bitcoin doesn't hit $1 million per Bitcoin by 2020. Yeah, he should bite his tongue. By the 7-year average daily rate of growth, Bitcoin should hit 250,000 by the year 2022. And it could easily go way higher if true adoption happens. But claiming $1 million by 2020, I think he might have gone back on that at this point, but I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's going to beg people, like donate $1 million or $2 million to a charity of people's choice or something to avoid that, because there's no freaking way that's going to happen. But anyway, need that coffee. I will get back to you all later. We got to take a break. My brain is slowly shutting down. I could tell I'm going to be saying and more than Trudeau soon, so I got to play it cool, play it, calm, and relax a bit and not give myself a heart attack with the amount of energy I seem to put into these videos sometimes, which is totally not expected even to myself. I just kind of jump into this and it takes off. And if I'm talking about children being extorted, stolen, and killed, I'm going to be pissed, obviously. But nonetheless. Brian Granger says, Josh, have you thought about putting together a presentation based on what you have researched or observed from doing WAM? Yeah, I've done that before. And I've done that. I did a speech at the Red Pill Expo. He says, might be a great way to reach more like-minded people. I agree. Yeah, I've done speeches like that at conferences and stuff. I hate talking about myself when it comes to those kind of occasions. Like every time someone interviews me, and no offense to anyone that's done this, but they always ask me about media and censorship and being independent media. And meanwhile, I want to talk about subjects and things I've studied my entire life. And of course, I know a lot about media, so I'm going to end up talking about it. I realize that, but it seems to always be the main thing that I get talked into doing in interviews, and in speeches. I always end up on media panels, which I always appreciate having the audience, but it's just kind of weird. I was on a media panel recently at Anarchapulco with G. Edward Griffin, Kerry Wedler, Derek Bros, and of course Dan Dix. And I enjoyed it, but I'd really like to talk on certain matters. And honestly, when I go to events, I like to focus on talking about voluntarism, freedom, individual, responsibility and stuff like that. I also, on top of that, despite speeches, I'd rather just talk to people and network and interview people as well. Roy Lowry says, I just subscribed. Thanks, Roy. Appreciate it. We appreciate all of our subscribers, and we're trying to grow all the time and reach as many people as possible. So we're always happy to hear from new viewers and subscribers. So anyway, I'm signing out. I gotta go. I am very, very tired and going numb in the brain. So I appreciate everyone joining us. I'm going to see if this outro thing works when live streaming. It didn't work so well last time. It looked kind of weird. But I'm going to try it out anyway. So I'm going to check out. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I really appreciate everyone joining us. Again, you guys make this possible, and I couldn't do it without you. And thank you. And anyway, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.